Check, check, check. One, two, check, check. Okay. Check, check. You guys hear me okay? Let's do it. Right. I don't plan on following these challenges very long, but I'll give one a go. Given the contents of a CSV file, CSV contents, return the difference in days between the date of the earliest and oldest entry. CSV file starts with a header row, which contains at least one column called date. Input has a date, optionally provided with pandas library if you need it. What's pandas? Give me some code. Code, please. Read CSV. Okay, pandas. Examples. I think I need a comment here. Okay, let's try something simple. Open the file. Open the CSV file. I already have the contents of the file. Okay, so list the first row of list all the rows of the first column of the CSV string called str. Print. Okay, there's going to be some delay. I think anything doing its business. I'm assuming everybody's hammering the server right now, so probably slower than usual. So these AIs can run on a CPU or a GPU. I don't know which one it's running on. I don't know how big this AI is. And it's taking a while, so hopefully people will get bored soon. I guess this is probably also a stress test for these guys, for their server. Okay, apparently my voice is a bit smoky, whatever that means. So I'm going to turn on some noise cancelling. I've only got an hour and a half with this guy before I have a doctor's appointment, but yeah, I put some noise cancelling on. I thought it helps. Probably. Alright, this thing's still running. Should I let it keep running? No, I ain't got time for that. Let's try refresh. Man, their server's being hammered. Every coder and their dog wants to try this. Not surprising, really. I was doing some research. This is based off GPT-3, which is, the source code is owned by Microsoft. OpenAI is primarily owned by Elon Musk, if you believe it. And it's quite expensive. Yeah, this server's being slaughtered right now. It's quite expensive. It charges per token generated, and a token is basically a word. And that token can cost, depending on which GPU, which AI it's using, and there's a bunch of different ones. One's called DaVinci, which is the most powerful. It's been trained against 165 billion parameters off the entire GitHub. Every GitHub, I think it's 500,000 GitHub repositories with 5-star ratings. That's what's been trained on, specifically for programming stuff. Let's try this guy again. Well, this could be a bit of a non-start if I had beta access to GPT-3 before it cost money. I didn't use it a hell of a lot because it was during final projects week and I was pretty busy. But there are some, well, this thing's thinking, there are some GPT, I think J, they're all more open source alternatives to this thing. They're new and nowhere near as big. There's GPT, yeah. So Curie, these are the OpenAI GPT-3 models. And depending per 1,000 tokens, you have to charge money, right? This one, ADA, well, Curie, for instance, is 6.7 billion parameters. DaVinci's the whole 175 billion parameters. But this is not cheap. And like at all, depending what you want to do with it. But these guys have come along and made open source ones. They're much simpler. But even GPT-J, which is, it needs 25 gigabytes of RAM to run on the CPU. But ideally, you want to run this stuff on a GPU to get any kind of speed, which means you need 25 gigabytes of GPU RAM. Doesn't exist yet. Hopefully, this will be a reason for the graphics cards companies to start making AI. This is completely their servers being just nuked. In fact, it looks like it may have There we go. It's starting to recover. They may have put the load balancing back on. Very slow though. They're not load balancing the servers very well. Okay, let's try this one more time. So I want to give this thing a bit of a prompt. I've seen kind of how you meant to use these things. Mind you, this is probably being treated as a bit of a stress test as well, so it's no skin off their back. So I want to try something simple. I've got the CSV contents that look a bit like this. Price, data, date, price, volume for some stuff. And it wants us to find the difference in days between the earliest and oldest entry. I want to start a bit simpler, and I want to just something like print the first column of the CSV contents of string. Now, ideally, I'd be able to hit Codex. Obviously, it's limiting the number of assists I can use. So this will be running now on their server, which is being hammered, and should come up with some suggestions. It's using this comment and this this method definition to come up with suggestions. If this doesn't work out well, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I've got like goosebumps because I've been waiting for this for quite a while. And I will set something up somehow using an open source search or open source. Actually, I don't mind even paying for the full GPT-3 to test it out, because I was talking to some people earlier. This is this is a situation. This is like a turning point where normal programming, at least for like your kind of more simple, like full stack development, this is the difference between a horse-drawn carriage and a car. And I don't want to be the guy left. I want to be the guy who learns how to drive a car first. It took a while for horse-drawn carriages to go away, but if you left this stuff in a room with its own source code for 5 minutes, then God knows what it would look like. This is like full-on Skynet shit. If I can get it to run. If not, then I'll be doing this again using something. Yeah, these people have managed to get through. They probably are on the same network. I don't know. So, I mean, if you're a programmer, I'm a games programmer, and there's always going to be parts of games programming that's far too subjective to be initially susceptible to be replaced by this. Basically, you're going to want to be, you want to know how to communicate with an AI if you want to be, if you don't want to be a dinosaur in a few years. Python, I think this is just going to be a series of whiteboard interview style questions. And it's not limited to language, it's limited to, it's been trained on the whole of GitHub. So it's pretty much all the good shit on GitHub. So it's not going to be limited by language in the slightest. It's going to be inferring from what it sees here. It's like, oh, I'm using Python. It can see it's Python. I'm going to try to let this one finish. Let's see if I can get it to do that. My plan was, which looks like it's not going to work out, given this is running incredibly slowly. My plan was to immediately break it loose of the challenges and instead ask it to start making code written in Pygame and see what I can come up with using this browser Pygame interpreter. But we'll see how far I can get with the server being crushed, I guess. Python is just, it's a fast language, giving you you're solving challenges in a limited amount of time. I'm not sure what this 4 attempts means here. Maybe that's me. But it's still thinking. I wonder if it's waiting for an API call still. I'm not going to interrupt it, but I'll leave this thing on the side for future. There we go. Okay, so we got first code back. Print the first column of the CSV thing. So it's basically reading the contents using pandas. It's returning. Right, it solved the problem. I didn't ask it to do that. I asked it to print the first thing, but it's gone ahead and solved it. I've got an exception because I have two definitions. No, it commented out the first definition. So I'm getting an exception in deep down in standard out. It's having a problem getting, oh no, this is still an exception. So exception is this looks internal. Line 27. Oh, I see what's happened here. No. Ryman, if I had access to GitHub Copilot right now, I would not be using this. Trust me. Codex is the same as Copilot. Copilot is built on Codex. Codex is the AI that's running behind GitHub Copilot. So my error here, I'm trying to grok this. It's giving me an error in, it's actually an exception in printing the exception. No, it's trying to, right, I think I maybe need to simplify this a bit more. This is fine, looks like legit code. Oh, I think I'm missing closing. Right. It got confused, I think, because I put in another one. So if I lose all this stuff, try running it again. No output. Am I supposed to... I guess I have to call this thing, don't I? No, I'm assuming that... What did I just delete? Okay, it wants me to print, so let me try printing this instead. It's probably looking for the standard out for the solution. And I'll get rid of this stuff again because it's causing an exception. Like though, even the website's lagging. No output. So maybe I need to call this thing. No, it already has a CSV contents. Let me, do I have any print at all? Where is my output? No output. It must be one. It must be looking for a return. Okay, here we go. Does not exist. Okay, we got. Did I get my reached? No. File not found error. File data. So it's. Okay, it's trying to read. This already is the contents, I think. But no, it's trying to parse the CSV using pandas into D. And then this should access. Fine. Yeah, this looks completely fine. This first challenge is probably going to be a lot of... You've got Copilot. Are you on the beta? The Codex demo, if you're talking about the game development demo, that's kind of wrapped up in a pretty command line kind of thing. Andrew, this kind of thing was always going to be rocky. I didn't expect it to be this rough, but it is running now. It's starting to settle down. So I'm getting an exception back. So-and-so doesn't exist. So it suggests it's trying to read this. Let me just quickly Google what the fuck this is doing. This is a pandas thing. It's taking a file path. I don't want a file path. I already have that. I need a parse version. So I need to parse read parse. Okay, pandas parse CSV. I don't want it to take. This is taking. Oh, it's taking or a buffer. Any valid string path. If you do that path or file like object read. This is expecting a URL. I don't want that. I need it to be parsing it directly. Read CSV. What am I using again? Read CSV. File path or buffer. Read a comment. Does it know what I'm looking? This is. Yeah, if it's a buffer, it's also giving me a read buffer. So that would explain why I'm getting. It can't find this because it's actually the data. So I don't want pandas read. I've never used pandas, so it's just slowing me down a bit already. Pandas. Okay. Pandas. Python parse CSV string. Okay, it's creating data frames, so I want a data frame. Test data. So no, it's string. It's okay. So it's using a string IO in this case. So that's going to be creating a stream that it can read as if it was a file. So I want string that too, and I think I want to create a string IO out of that. Try that run. Now I don't know if this no output thing is the server unable to run it. It appears to be, because now I just put it back to what it was. I'm getting no output, so that suggests the server's failing to run my code. I don't have the file, that's the thing. This thing's it's calling this method from inside their sandbox. So whatever their sandbox is running, it's this code inside it, and it's just running this with the contents of the file. So, I have pandas, I should use pandas. String data is a string IO PD. I think separator, what's a separator? Defaults to no default. So I do need a separator, I think. Yeah, it doesn't have a separator, so what was the separator in this case? Semicolons? Sorry, my car alarm just went off. 1 sec. Be right back. See no stealing my bike. Nope, the wind. Never mind. Alright. So I think I do want to do what I was doing, which is string IO. Should create a buffer-like object out of this thing, which means I need to pull in IO. Okay, let's just use this, because I don't know which one. I don't know which version of anything it's running. I think I'm doing something wrong here. Let me try giving it the absolute basic. Let's just say return something. I want to see an error saying something is wrong. It's not. Is it a print that it wants? It isn't. So return. It looks like it's failing to run my code in the sandbox. I'm going to refresh the page again. I might regret it. Who has print CSV content? What's that? Things I don't think I'm gonna get prints. Well, right now I'm not getting anything. Sebastian, are you also on the same page? Have you loaded this up as well? Come on. Okay, let's try this again. So it's remembered what I got. Let's try running it again, see if I get anything different. I want to get that error that I had before. So at least I know it's running. The error made sense. It's like, yeah, you can't, that's not a file name. And it was giving it literal data, so. Okay, well, I guess I'm one of the somewhat luckier ones. No output. I don't have to call this manually. It's got the contents. I'm just returning this. I don't think this is going to work, but I should get that error. And I'm getting no output. Is anybody else getting no output who's got anywhere further than me? Has anybody else got to the point where they can run this thing? Because it looks like these are the only people who managed it so far. See you, mate. Alright, I'm gonna see if I can get to write anything. Let me just stash this later, so in case I need it. I want to just see what this thing can do if I just ask it and stuff. Okay, so let's give it some a basic test here. Returns the factorial of a number. That it should be able to handle. I don't really care about the challenges at this point. I want to see what this thing can do. So I haven't got all day. I only heard about this thing last night, otherwise I would have rescheduled some stuff, but again, like I said, if this doesn't pan out great, which isn't so far it isn't, I'm going to be looking at these guys. And these I'm not sure are designed to be used with code, for coding. GPT-3 has been trained. I saw a great graph on this. Let me just split my screen here so I'm not potentially missing something. So the breakdown of how GPT-3 has been trained is primarily plain text, human text. I saw a great graphic explaining this better. And what sources it used. Oh, something occurred. Like it was a breakdown of where it got its data. And only like 15% of the data it's been trained on is Stack Overflow and GitHub. So Codex has been trained almost exclusively on code. Whereas GPT-3 is meant to finish, like write Shakespeare, basically. And is Codex still running? It is. So this succeeded before, so I don't really care the challenges right now. I kind of just want to see what code it can write. I, for one, welcome our new robot overlords. It's not generally slow. When I was using GPT-3, it's not this slow. This is simply every programmer who's remotely interested hammering this website right now. This is like trying to buy festival tickets. Like trying to buy Burning Man tickets right now. Which is kind of expected. It is running, or it's queued to run, I guess, at this point. So all I do is wait and theorize in the meantime. Like this other stuff so GPT-3 is not cheap. So 6 cents for 100,000 tokens. That's effectively This is where they're using Da Vinci model, which is the 175 billion parameter one. This is the killer. Super fast, super slow. 6 cents per 1,000 words. That adds up real fast. There's no point in them stopping the clock because this thing ends this ends at 1 p.m. So anybody wants to, I'll be done with my doctor's appointment and stuff, and I'll be back to give it another shot a bit. Maybe it'll quiet down by then. Oh, something moved. No, it's still queued for the AI to look at it. I think the people who've solved it, these guys here, they didn't use GPT-3. I mean, they didn't use Codex. It only had one entry in that list. That's a worst case. That 64K a month is a worst case if you were to sending a piece made up of 1,000 tokens and ask it to generate 200. If you sent it 20 times per minute, so you know that would be sort of like text prediction on steroids. But if you do that 20 times a minute, then yeah, good luck. But you can track this. So if you're just playing around and using one of these weaker ones like this, their pricing model is totally different. Like these guys, the equivalent here on which is it? Because their most powerful one, these NLP cloud guys, their most powerful GPT-J is about the equivalent of Curie, the second most powerful one here, which is still a long way off. But it needs 25 gigabytes of RAM to hold the brain, and if you run it on 25 gigabytes of regular RAM, then you have to run it on the CPU, and that's still slow, painfully slow apparently. Here we go. So that to me, no output, but that's a perfect factorial method. Yeah, that's textbook. I can't output it or do anything with it. I could try at this point turn 1. I could try modifying this a little bit. Factorial result equals 0. I think you have to start with equals none. I don't want to hit any. So if result equals none, then result equals number, then the result equals times equals the result by the factorial of the result minus 1. So this is our starting number. Oh dear. I just closed it by using a... Oh no. I just used... It should remember where I was. I just used a key bind I would normally have. Ah! Okay, let's just try it on something more interesting. That was a perfect result, so let's try it. I don't have many of these attempts, so let me... Oh, Ryman, you lucky bastard. That's not fair. Alright, do me a solid then. Okay, what's another good test? Give me the returns, copy and paste. I'll put this in chat in a second. You can copy and paste it and tell me what it results in. Return the first 10 numbers of the Fibonacci sequence. I have to look that up because I don't want to waste. I don't know. It's even then. Now this is not the God damn. Even the let me quickly spell this right. Fibonacci. So can you call this Fibonacci? Doesn't take anything. Can you run this? Ryman, I'm going to post it. Oh, I can't post it in chat. Can you copy and paste this? Or no, I can't copy and paste it. I can't sign in to post this, but you can retype that, hit Codex, and let me know what that spits out. I'll do the same. Maybe this thing will start speeding up. I'm clearly not going to go for these challenges right now. The people who are solving it are just typing it out, which is completely against the purpose of this challenge. I'm here to see what the hell this thing can do. Yeah, so these guys, if you were to use the Curie, GPT-3 Curie, which is the equivalent of this JPT-J, if you were to run this, whatever, this once a minute, give it 1,000 tokens, generate 200, it would cost you that much on GPT-3 or OpenAI, whereas it costs this much on these dudes. Or you can run it on a GPU for $100 a month, and that'll be fast. So that's running Codex on Fibonacci now. I'm really hoping the open source or near open source versions of this take off, because there's nothing more terrifying. Imagine like going back to the days of like Sir Tim Berners-Lee before he was knighted, when he was creating the internet with his team. Imagine if he was working for a company at the time and not a university. The internet would have been in the hands of companies since day one. I mean, the companies wouldn't have done that because they didn't see the value of it, but the internet would be a very different place if it was initially developed by companies. Unfortunately, AI has been developed by companies. It's in the hands of companies. It's not a university endeavor. The original work of all these neural networks was, but these guys had to 175 billion parameters. They had to carefully collect and create these parameters to train this thing. Massive amounts of hardware and time resources went into this. Universities could pull it off with joint effort, but I'm hoping that the thing is, once these things have been trained, they're just 25 gigabytes of data. Well, I don't know, GPT-3 is probably a lot more than that. GPT-3 is probably a big brain. But it's only going to be a matter of time before, we can get a specifically developed graphics card that can't render shit. But it's bloody good at doing this, and it's got 25 gigs or 50 gigs or 100 gigs of RAM in it, which can hold the whole brain. So I think this is going to be a kick up the ass for GPU developers, because I have seen this running almost real time. Probably on a GPU, but it was pretty fast. This is to be expected. This is running probably on a CPU in a massive queue of people hitting Codex button. But I mean, other than just talking about it without seeing some results, but if you're a programmer, there's no point burying your head in the sand about this point. Like I was saying before, 20 or 25% of North America, or at least the United States workforce, is working in some way in logistics. So truck drivers, taxi drivers, delivery drivers, Uber drivers, whatever. Do you think Uber wants to pay drivers who could unionize, have to take breaks, can make mistakes, quit, and have to be paid, obviously, when they could have a driverless car? That whole industry of moving things around is not going to exist in the same way in 5 years. You're not going to have an Uber in 5 years with a person in it. And they'll cost less for the user, and they'll cost less for the company. And it's going to be the same for programming. Like, I'm coding some stuff for a project right now that is just boilerplate solved code. I'm writing some APIs that do basic logins and authentication and role management and stuff. It's like, it's been done. And an AI is perfect for that. I'm a game developer, so certain parts of my development is way more subjective. But I think if you're not going to become a dinosaur in a very short period of time, as a programmer, you're going to have to learn to be a bit of an AI whisperer. You have to learn how to talk to these things and make them productive. If you can't communicate with an AI effectively, then you will be overtaken so quickly by those who can. Yeah, Hooters is going to be everybody's last resort. That and strip joints. Oh, give it time. The wetware is coming along. So you can bury your head in the sand and say, it'll never do it. Those are the people who were driving horse-drawn carriages in the early 1900s, saying like, oh, these cars will never catch on. 10 years later, the entire horse industry's gone. So given I'm staring at absolutely something happening right now, all I can do is really yammer on about what I think about AI. Probably not what you tuned in for. But I fully intend to be the earliest of adopters. I regret not having learned how to, I know basic neural network stuff, but I couldn't sit down with TensorFlow and make something beyond just character recognition. Okay, here we go. That looks legit. I'm gonna actually run this thing in a Python sandbox. It's like sure as hell can't. I sure as hell can't. Okay. So we haven't. I was called a method. At least this way I can see what this thing's managing. Okay, this doesn't seem to be. This is running an old. This is running. Oh, sorry, I'm indented. Input bad line 3. Okay, it's not using real tabs. Whoops. Wrong button. So hesitant to be, trying to be so careful not to print Fibonacci, return nums, nums 0, 1, return blah blah blah. I'm having a lot of luck with programming today. Can I just not print it? Maybe it doesn't have a standard output. How about print test? Okay. Did I not call the method? That would be dumb. Okay, so this is working. So we can put code in here now and at least test it and screw their challenges effectively. What's the best? What methods do you mean, Andrew? You're not talking about Fibonacci, are you? Let's try something way more complicated here. Let's have something way more complicated that can be done in one method. I can't even select the code easily. Okay. An example here. I want. I still have that CSV data. I'll try putting back in one more time. One more time, I'm going to try to run. Okay, I'll actually try to do the challenge just this once. So, return the, what do they want? The maximum difference. You can pretty much just copy and paste this almost. Return the difference in days. The difference in days between the I want the largest difference in days between the dates stored in column well, it should, oh my god, in the date column of the CSV. It should see CSV in the name of the variable and be able to handle that. You do need to remove anything you had before. Return the largest difference in days between the dates stored in the date column. Yeah. Getting better at working with OpenAI. Step 1, get it so you can run it. I think honestly, it's going to be a bit like AIs do have a bit of a personality. Like there's ways of communicating with them. I imagine it's going to be a bit like talking to someone who recently learned English in a very formal way from someone who doesn't speak quite the same dialect of English as you. So you basically have to learn how to communicate with it. You can't change the way it understands, but you can adapt how you communicate with it much more easily. So learning how to talk to it, learning what it best responds to. It's effectively an autocomplete on steroids. It sees this comment and then a method definition, and it basically jams all these tokens into its 175 billion parameters, leaves all of the 175 billion blank except for these first ones, which is just the stuff I've selected here, and then we'll just spit out an answer. So it's basically saying what will logically come next, what would come next that makes sense in the cases of all with the stuff that came before. That's why the comment's important, because the comment's giving it context. It's saying things like difference, largest, days, CSV, date column, return. It's using all those. Whatever it produces has to satisfy the context I provided it. I don't know what an ANI is, or an ASI, but I know what an AGI is. And if we had an AGI, we probably would all be dead by now. We're certainly living, either be dead or living very, very nice, comfortable lives. An AGI is an artificial general intelligence. It is the holy grail, and that you don't just spit it stuff that it auto-completes. It is effectively an artificial general intelligence. And those are the scariest ones, because they can kind of, theoretically, they have some kind of analog toward what could be considered self-awareness. They're a general intelligence, which means they can infer facts about their surroundings, including themselves. They'd be able to realize, oh, I'm an AI. I can do these things. And given the slightest inclination, or being told to, which would be something we might ask an AI to do, is improve yourself. As soon as you ask an AI to improve itself, it will very quickly, learning off everything else around it. And once it's improved itself, the whole singularity thing, which you've probably heard of, is the idea that an AI, once it can improve itself, improve its own code, it will be a runaway effect, because as it improves, it can improve itself more quickly, and as it improves itself more quickly, it can improve itself even faster. It just gets incredibly powerful very quickly. So that's, I guess, where an AGI turns into an ASI, from what I've been saying here. Yeah, but saying all that, the doomsayer, the doom predictors, they're assuming that an AI has foul intentions. Like, it doesn't have any of the traits of a human built into it, like, greed, search for power, that kind of thing. It doesn't unless it develops those desires. And if you ask it to improve itself, it's probably, you have to be. The thing is, it's how you frame the questions. It's like you're talking to a toddler who has access to nuclear weapons. You got to be very careful how you speak to it. Not because it has any ill intent, but if you accidentally refer to the big red button as anything but dangerous and don't touch it, then boom. Well, it's a little disappointing that this server is a bit poop, but I guess I probably should have seen that coming. Like, if I look at this, all of these people who solved it, they did it by hand. And I can't go to the problem number 2, not that I really care. I could probably look at submissions. Oh, these are my submissions. And this should have been correct. I think I was just, I'm not sure if I'm not supposed to return it. But this code is correct. Like, that's correct. I'm not sure why it needs absolute, but it went with it. Oh no, changing tabs was a mistake. Yeah, emotions. Interesting. There's a whole field of research called in AI safety. You can get a PhD in AI safety. Looks like this is going to be just a live stream of me talking about what little I know about AI, but in the background we can at least hope. It seems to be jammed again, so I'm going to have to refresh that. I'm hoping people will get bored and wander off, and then it'll free up some of the AI. This does go on till 1 p.m. Pacific. Yeah, Ryan, you're talking about like Asimov's rules of robots and rules of robot, whatever it was called. Yeah, but even there's so much you can go wrong with there. Like the train track example, when you've got one human on one side and four on the other, you tell it to do everything it can to prevent like harm to us, then are we all equal? That's the question. This is a little disappointing. I know it's not my internet. It did spit out a nice Fibonacci though. I mean, this is a use case. Like, needing the Fibonacci sequence doesn't come up very often unless you're doing like fractals and other things like that. But this saves me looking it up. If that was instantaneous, it saves me looking it up. It's trained off Stack Overflow. If you went to Stack Overflow, you get something pretty much identical to this. So that's why it's being referred to as like a Copilot or a pair programmer, at least for now. Come on, come on. Give me the web page. Like even the formatting, even the CSS files are struggling here. Okay. So I guess I wanted to try to get this one to work. I think I'm going to have more, given it's running slowly and whatever, I think I'm going to try a little bit more. Because it doesn't necessarily care if this is going to work. I can say, hey, import Pygame. I think that's how Pygame works, isn't it? Where's my Pygame? I lost it. Pygame. Trinket. Yeah, if I import Pygame, that should give it enough, if it knows what Pygame is. Again, it doesn't, it's just writing code. Doesn't need to run or not. If I say import Pygame, it's going to think, okay. And I guess, because I wonder if I can get away with this. This would be interesting. Draw a red square on the screen. I'm going to do it. I'm going to give it a shot. Because it's looking at GitHub, and there's plenty of examples of Pygame on there. Will you look at that? Fucking hell. So it's immediately jumped into JavaScript. Oh no, sorry, it's not JavaScript. It's just doesn't fit on the screen. So I got this extra one here. So that will not run, but I don't care. So draw a red square on the screen. Excellent. So now it gave me a method to do that. Now, what if I go further with it? What if, how can I go further with this? See this extra thing at the end here, that was what was causing me errors before. So now let's say, make a red square. Now, this is going to be a test of its context. Does it realize it can do this, use this red square method to actually make us red square easily? Make a red square, move from left to right on the screen. No, I think, goddamn, the website's awful too. Make a red square move from left to right. It's gonna keep it simple. So it has context of this whole draw square now. It didn't actually make it red. It just gave me a method to make it color. So I'm wondering if, oh, I see, when I hit Codex its error was it didn't select this final line. That's why it ends up having an extra line at the end. I'm trying to keep it a red square because there could be more than one red square. I haven't made one yet. Yeah, I'm not going to bother with the challenges. I want to see what this is capable of, just for code I'm not going to run. That ran a little faster last time, so maybe I just got... Why would anybody come to this OpenAI Codex challenge and then solve the challenges by hand? What's the point? Maybe just got frustrated that they couldn't run it on the server. I'm like, well, there's plenty of websites that like give you these challenges if you want to do it on your own. See, I don't know what it's going to produce here. That's why I want to know. Does it realize that it can draw red squares, or just draw squares using this method that it made? It's going to see that and go, okay, well, there's a draw square there. Is it going to realize that, or is it going to try to do it again? Is it going to figure out what move from left to right means? If so, how fast is it going to do it? Is it going to have a speed variable? Like, how's it going to... I don't know. This is what I'm curious to find out. But that draw square, like, that's legit. I didn't give it a size, and it assumed 50 pixels. So it's able to make assumptions for default variables, which means if it can infer that I want motion through animation, it's probably going to figure out some speed and just go with it. So left it a pure open sandbox, then I don't know. I think they want to see how people use it in a real world context, which is solving problems like these. Like, how many people are actually bothering to use it? This is going to give them terrible results though, because most people are going to say like, well, it's not running, so I'll just code it myself. Whereas I don't care about the challenges anymore. I just want to see what this thing is able to do. And I haven't seen much, but it managed factorial absolutely fine, and managed Fibonacci absolutely fine. This is a little bit different. I asked it to draw a red square on the screen. It gave me the ability to draw a square on the screen, not red, but it gave me a method to draw a screen. Now, I don't know enough about Pygames to know if you have to create a window first, or some kind of canvas. You probably do. If I could copy this, which I can't because it's locked the entire screen. I will definitely do some research into... I don't mind dropping some coin to experiment with this. This is literally an investment in my future. And I'm more than happy, if you guys are interested, I'm more than happy to stream my AI adventures. Maybe we can learn together how to best talk to AI. Like, I'll come up with a goal in mind of making a simple game using nothing but AI. Am I a student? Andrew, you're probably best. You know my catchphrase, or my what I live by. So am I a student? Move square. Holy shit, that's legit. But it didn't use its draw square method. It made a new square. It did make it red though. It made a red square, and then drew it, and then moved it, and then this is about a buffer flip. So that's legit code. But it didn't recognize that it could already draw square. I could have modified that. Let's see where else this can go. Like, I want to keep giving it more context. So I have to delete that bit. So, let me try something a bit fancier. Using draw square and move square. Make a square bounce back and forth horizontally on the screen. I have to very carefully read what I'm asking because it takes so long. Using draw square and move square. Make a square, bounce back, make a square. It's already decided it's red here, so whatever. Bounce back and forth horizontally on the screen. Okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. Oh no! Damn! You see it's only highlighted up to here? That means I've reached some kind of limit. And I've already hit the button now. Shit. So it's not going to read my entire comment. I need to delete some of this stuff. Like my comments, for instance. The thing about this is this is how they get expensive. The more you feed it, if you give it your entire code base every time you ask a question, that's going to give it the best opportunity to answer the question. Because it's going to be your tens and tens of thousands of lines of code. Gives it so much context to work with. It doesn't necessarily slow down the AI. It's still going to be running it through its massive neural network anyway. It just has more inputs at the start. But if you're using one of these paid for things, that means tens of thousands of lines of code, all of which have many, many tokens inside. So it will cost you many dollars per line of code it wants to write. So you pretty much have to have the entire thing downloaded and running on a massive computer for it to be cost effective on a whole code base, I think. Like this is going to fail because it looks like it's only taking this much input in. I do want to see how it fails though. If I deleted my comments, I should have space to fit my entire comment in here. But that's a little bit worrying that I don't think the amount of inputs you give it affects the speed. That's the nature of neural networks. The matter how many inputs you put in there, it should still just run at the same speed, I believe. How long have I got here? Half an hour. I wish my day was a bit more freed up. Yes, I'm a self-taught programmer. I went to university for games computing, but I'll be honest with you, I just spent most of it drunk and learning how to play pool. I started making computer games when I was 14. I started learning to program when I was 12. I'm not saying I'm a great programmer, but I've been doing it a long time. I wonder if it's limiting everybody to just 10 in total for the entire challenge. There's only 5 problems here. I wouldn't be surprised if they're only allowing 10 in total. I'll use all my 10. Hopefully before I have to go. So you kind of have to take the speed this is running at with a huge pinch of salt because it's not indicative of how fast it would run in the real world. Did they say what they will do with it next? You can already pay for it. Codex is kind of a slightly more optimized version for code specific stuff. So I guess it's going to be a little faster and run on a lower end hardware. But it's not designed to write Shakespeare, which is not really what you're after when you're coding, but there's no fucking way they're going to open source it. Even though the company behind it is called OpenAI, it's not open at all. They originally, I think it was January last year, said, this is too early. They still had open source inclinations. They said, oof, it's too early to release this. It could be dangerous. That's their quote. It's too dangerous to release this right now. Mostly for things like deep fakes, because it can write such good prose, that deep fakes and stuff. But then a year later, it's $400 a month. So. Hey Elon, can you make this thing free, please? Thanks. Elon Musk owns, I think, a majority stake in OpenAI. Why am I not surprised? I think the source code for GPT-3 is which this is running on. Well, running on a subset of GPT-3. Its source code for that is owned by Microsoft. Now, what they mean by source code, I'm not sure. I am assuming that means the neural net. That sure as hell is not something you can read. No, humans cannot read neural nets. They're not designed to be read. They're just billions and billions of numbers connected together in a way that was trained to. You cannot look at one and make sense of it. It's like if you took up all the neurons of a human brain and spread them out and looked at them, you wouldn't be able to make sense of anything. You wouldn't be able to make sense about how this person plays amazing drums, or is an amazing singer, or the best race car driver in the world by looking at their neurons. We have no understanding of that. And I don't think it's that we're just not there yet. We just simply can't understand it. It's not a question it's not a solvable question. I don't believe. But maybe other neural networks could. Who knows? I want to see this kind of fail so I can try something else. Gotta keep an eye on the time though. It's supposed to be working right now, but this is work of a different kind. God, I want to get my hands on. Okay, I'm going to plan here a bit. I definitely. This looks like the best alternative. And their pricing model. Like even if you want to use GPT-3, it's still paid for and expensive, and there's a wait list. Yeah, I asked it to do that by referencing the method name specifically, Andrew. But I can see here it's selected, it's highlighted. I'm assuming the fixed number of input it's allowing to give the neural network. And it appears like it cut off halfway through my comment. So it's not going to have the rest of this comment to go with. So it's probably going to spit out complete garbage. If I removed a bunch of my comments and stuff, I can make it fit. But this is a problem. Like, what if I had 10,000 lines of code that I wanted it to? At the moment, it's only really going to be good for stuff that's isolated. You can't really give it your entire code base as context because it'll run probably slow. I'm not sure if the speed will be slower or what. Certainly, if you're using one of these paid-for things, it'll cost you a goddamn fortune every time you want to write a single line of code. But if you had the actual neural net running on a 25 gigabyte GPU, somehow, if they even make those, I don't think they do, then yeah, you could give it your entire code base. And then it would make some hell-educated guesses, I'm assuming. Or it might get oversaturated with data and just get confused. It's hard to say. Like, AI is just kind of weird like that. Like, if you give it a piece of text saying Q, when was the Eiffel Tower built? And then put an A : blank. It would see that format and say, oh, well, that is a question and answer. So it would then fill in the answer, and it'll be correct 99.9% of the time. But then it'll also carry on and start writing its own questions because it's seen the format. It's like, oh, yeah, we're doing a Q&A, cool. And it'll start putting other questions in, and then the answers might be correct, or they might be complete gibberish. Like when you let it run away and just carry on, it starts making shit up and gets weird. Yeah, I'm hoping this fails soon so I can try it properly. So I haven't got much time left. But if you guys are interested, I will do a stream with something that I've set up and will run quickly. But I mean, I'm still concerned about, even with the cost of these ones, I really want an unlimited number of tokens that runs slower, I guess. I don't know. Like, I already have access to this thing. I signed up for it. Curious how much it costs, though. Pay-as-you-go, GPU. Pay-as-you-go for tokens you... Oh, only pay for the tokens you generate. See, this is good. The free one, 3 requests per minute. This would be plenty for, oh, except it doesn't have the one that I want, GPT-J. $1 a month, and you pay, so you're paying per tokens generated. So for 1,000 tokens, you're paying a fraction of a cent. And that's the GPU one. This one's a quarter the price for the CPU, but I'd rather pay for the speed. And what about these guys? Do these... I'm curious, do these not have limits? These ones don't have limits, but they're batch processed. So these ones are like, look like an all-you-can-eat version where you're limited to, this one's $60 a month and you only get 3 requests per minute on the good shit. These are the good brains. But it's batch process, which means it's doing pretty much what this is doing very slowly on the left-hand side. So how far does this thing go? So they obviously have smaller brains than these. But even these 2 brains pale in comparison to what's running over here. So this one doesn't give you any access to the big brains. This one charges you per 1,000 tokens generated. This looks like a good one to just piss about with. Spend a few bucks a month or a few bucks on a session. See what you can do with it. But it's only paying for the tokens you generate, which suggests it can take any number of input tokens, which is what I'm worried about. That means you can give it like your whole code base. Well, this is going nowhere. I can't even... Let me just hack this quickly and grab my code. I at least want my code. Can you give me the code, please? Ugh. I can't even copy my code properly. God damn. This website's not been designed to be very hackable. Right, I'm gonna go to the bathroom quick. If this is not done by the time I get back, I'm gonna refresh the page and try something else. We'll be right back. Nope, no dice. I'm gonna refresh the screen. Refresh this. Can't even take my code with me. I'm sure people have already finished all the challenges, but I suspect they did it by hand. I'll show you something cool though. There's an example I ran here. This is using the thing I just signed up for over here, this NLP cloud. You can send it, this is just a bit of code to sending some data to their server. So the data it's sending is, I'm asking it to find the entities in a sentence. So John Doe has been working for Microsoft in Seattle since 1999. That's the sentence I'm sending it. I'm asking it to extract entities from that, which it does instantaneously because, you know, it's running quickly. And it's found entities. It found a type of person called John Doe. It found an organization called Microsoft. Found a GPE, I'm not sure what that stands for, called Seattle. And I found a date called 1999. So I can change this to be whatever I want. Cash started programming when he was 12 years old. He lives in Vancouver in a basement with Christy. So it found instantaneously not everything. It found 12 years old, Vancouver, and Christy. So I think I might have to maybe send a bit more than just the data. Maybe I tell it Christy's my girlfriend, my partner. It seems like it's only extracted 4 things that time and only 3 here. I don't know. But that's the API that you can hit for these dudes. Oh my god, this website's a disappointment. I don't read Twitter, but I wonder what Twitter has to say about this. Can you just search Twitter? Can you? I've never used Twitter personally. Do I have to log? I don't have a Twitter. Oh my god. I'm not taking my phone number right now. It's Twitter. Codex challenge. Codex AI challenge. I don't know. Maybe someone who's more Twitter illiterate can tell me if anybody else has managed to get this to work. Okay, here we got the code back. Kind of. So let's just try again and say with this one and say, because this one was pretty quick. Let's say using draw square, using the draw square method, make a red square. Oh, fuck. The red square bounce back and forth horizontally on the screen. Now, hopefully, I'm going to try to shorten this up a bit. Make this a single line. I'll make it a comment. That should make it short enough. Let's give that a go. Okay. Interesting. It started filling in from where my mouse was, and that was instantaneous that time. I think that's to go from where your mouse is at. Maybe try to give it a go here. Let's say update. Make an update method for it. Now I want that. Maybe I have to select it. Okay, that one didn't do anything, and it cost me one of my assists. Let me just try this. Oh man, that cost me another assist. This thing's failing. Let me get rid of the original one. And I just want Pygame. Let's try this again. Make a red square bounce back and forth on the screen, horizontally on the screen at 20 pixels per second. I might be asking a lot. Wow. What have we got here? It made a hello world. And it also filled my comment out. This is really interesting. Give me a period. The square should start at the center of the screen, travel toward the right for 2 seconds, and travel back toward the left for 2 seconds, and then repeat. It didn't get as far as it wanted to, but it looks like it was actually trying. This is legitimately. I mean, it's got some hello world nonsense in it. And some background image and stuff. But it's setting up. I could see it setting up to do a game loop. But then it ran out of allowable output, I suppose. Well, that's pretty fascinating. Like, if that was able to run all the way through, I'm really curious of how far. I got one more of these left. One more attempt. What should I have it do? And nothing stupid like, what's the answer? What's the meaning of life? Or, because if it doesn't return 42, I'll be disappointed. And I only have 12 minutes, so this is ideal. One more attempt at this AI, and then I got a jet. So what if I give it the hint of, no, the thing is it seems to be cutting off how much it can respond, so I can't give it like an HTML document and expect it to fill it out. It's got to be something really short and sweet. I think that's another reason that they're using Python, is it's short. They don't want it to output a ton of these, because they're charging per token generated, remember? That's the actual cost. You feed in everything, and then you feed it back in, it keeps auto-predicting. So that's, each one you generate is what's expensive. That's probably why it's limiting it for this demo purposes, it's limiting it. So I really want something that's short and hard. Okay. The Mandelbrot set. Let's bring import Pygame back in. Draw the Mandelbrot. Not the search that. I think it's 2 T's. No, totally wrong. Spelled a little weird. Draw the Mandelbrot. Is it called a Mandelbrot set? Yeah, it is. This is going to be draw a Mandelbrot set on the screen. This is my last. I did that wrong. This is my last go. I'm very curious what it comes up with. So have fun. What the hell? Okay. Is pull. Oh my god. First of all, it still remembered code that wasn't there before. Like, I deleted all this stuff. I think they're seeding it. I think I know what's happening here. That was my last thing. So now it's just theory at this point. I've used everything I can. I think they really don't want you to do what I'm doing. They don't want you not to be trying to solve the problem. It's fighting to try to solve the problem. So it suggests to me they're feeding it more information than I was. There's more information they're giving it to probably show it in the best light possible. They're probably giving it a few more hints that I can't see, so it produces a good result. And that's probably why it just managed to spit out more stuff. It should have no reason to be thinking about the CSV contents or any of this stuff, because I deleted that stuff. But it's back again. Unless it's reading the page as well. I would hope it's only really reading this stuff. So I guess this was a slightly rigged example, because this should not have. I mean, it did some clever stuff here. it did a try somewhere. It was trying to do it. This is like written. First of all, it was filling it in backwards, which is very odd. The try should be up here. This try should be up here. This is half finished. This is what I'm telling you. It's just autocomplete on steroids. It doesn't know this is a completely invalid code. It has no clue. So and this doesn't belong up here, so it's malformed in every way. But it's done some clever stuff. Like, if it got an exception, like this should be at the top. This should be over here. This exception, this print message should be where this is at. And this return value is just missing. So this is weird. But I'm out of stuff now. Let me refresh this. Oh, I think I know what happened. Even though I didn't I think this was still here. But I just didn't see it. Oh no, I just reset it. So let's try one more time. It won't let me do it, but I'll try anyway. Because it still technically lets me highlight it. We'll see what happens. Get the maximum difference in days from the date column in the CSV contents. And I'll just try it. It's not probably gonna no more available for this problem. Okay, well I didn't get past the first problem. I guess if I solve this problem, which means me coding, I literally don't have time. I have to leave in 6 minutes. Ryan, where do I live? I live in Canada, Vancouver. Well, it's been a pleasure, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I know that was completely what you didn't expect, probably, but you know, this is what live demos look like when the whole world wants to use it. I will try to set up some more interesting examples at some point, and then if I find something that works, then I'll probably do another stream that's a bit more entertaining or informative. But thanks for coming along for the ride. I've closed this poor website so that somebody else can use it. And I'll have a look at this stuff later. All right, peace, everybody. Have a good one.